Story time about when I could have been trafficked while I do my hair. Unfortunately, this is very common here in South Texas, but I have yet to see anyone talk about this tactic. One morning, I decided to go to the gym like really early, and when I was on my way home, I was passing this store that I had to stop at regardless. So as I was entering the parking, I noticed this van, not even like a creepy van, just like a normal old early 2000s mom van, right? And there was a man in the driver's seat, and what I noticed, the reason it got my attention is there was a woman who was putting the back seats down, and I just thought like, oh, it's probably for like groceries or something, whatever. So then once I park, I go into the store, I grab a cart, and I immediately notice this man who also has a cart and it's empty. That man proceeds to pop up in the same aisle as me twice, and the second time that he does, he asks me, do you work here? Again, I'm on my way home from the gym, so I'm wearing full gym attire. I'm sweaty. Seriously, bad feeling. I didn't say anything. I literally just looked at his face and walked away. At this point, I just go to pay for my stuff, and the cashier actually asks me if I'm okay, and she tells me that she noticed that that man was like kind of following me around and stuff, because take in mind, it's a small store. I tell her and the man standing behind me in line who was listening as well about that weird question he asked me, and as I'm about to pay, I realize that I forgot my wallet in the car. The man behind me in line offers to walk me to my car and get it, and I was like, no, y'all can see my car from the window, just keep an eye out, right? As I'm walking to my car, there's a homeless woman in the parking lot, and she starts limping her way towards me, and she says, hey, like, do you have spare change? I'm really hungry, I want to grab a bite to eat. And I immediately notice her jacket. It was the same woman who was putting the seats down in the back of that van. Go to part 2. If you're seeing this, it's already up.
Creepy story time. There's a photo that I'm going to be showing at the end that I would highly recommend you stay for. I ended up getting a headache after looking at it, so I'm only going to put it on the screen briefly and then taking it off. Also, the person who submitted this wishes to remain anonymous, so we're going to call her Pam. So Pam is originally from Belize, which is right next to Mexico. When Pam was a young girl, she was playing one night when she happened to kick a glass bottle. When she kicked it, it broke and it ended up slicing her foot. She ended up at the KHMH hospital. Being that her injury happened so late at night, her parents weren't too happy with her with having to take her there at that time. She ended up having to get x-rays in her foot to make sure there wasn't any glass left behind. While she was sitting there waiting in a wheelchair, she started to feel very cold and uneasy. Her older sister had been teasing her and just taking photos with her camera. After Pam got her stitches and medicine and was getting ready to be discharged, her sister went up to her and told her that she did not want her to be afraid, but that she had captured something on her camera. Bear in mind that this was really late at night, so the hospital was practically empty. The person in blue over here is the nurse. The guy all the way in the back there in the red, that's her dad. The lady in the yellow is her mom. The girl in the wheelchair is Pam. So who's that standing right next to her? Who is this black shadow here? And here's a closer look. Again, I'm already getting a headache just by looking at this. Till this day, they still have not been able to explain what that was. I told her that was a very dark entity that just happened to be there. For whatever reason, it does look like it's almost walking with her. And she has explained that she's had a lot of dark things and a lot of like paranormal things happen to her in her life. She actually does have a part 2 to the story of things that have happened since then. So if you guys are interested, let me know so I can share.
This is why you have to be careful who you let into your Halloween parties. So this is a photo of who police believed was a guest at a Halloween party in Rochester, New York in the 1940s. The party was being thrown by Jack and Amelia Layton, and they actually noticed that this guest was outside of the party watching the guests through a window. The report claims that Amelia believed the guest was her friend Jan, who tended to go above and beyond for Halloween, creating very scary costumes. So she let this person in believing it was her friend Jan. But then 20 minutes later, Jan shows up, and that guest could not be found anywhere. So Amelia starts running around the party asking everyone if they knew who that guest was, and no one had recognized that person. So she goes into her daughter's room, who was playing while the party was happening. And the police report states that the only thing there left of Amelia's daughter was a bloody shoe. 4 other reports of this guest being at parties that night were called into police, and all of them resulted in missing children's cases. The identity of this person has never been found, and none of the kids have been found either.
Someone was murdered in my hotel room. I was in Vegas for the Taylor Swift concert a few weeks ago. But don't worry, that's not blood. That was just the paint underneath the makeup. It was a sold out show, so all of the hotels nearby had upped their prices and basically everywhere was sold out. So last minute, we find this old place on the old Las Vegas Strip, which was right next to the Zach Baggins Museum. Now, if you guys have watched any of my videos, you know I'm a professional ghost hunter. And that place is super haunted. We decide to investigate and we start to set up. And then my friend Mel is like, is that blood on the wall? And me and Tori are like, there's no way there's blood on the wall right now. But there was in fact blood on the wall, and we even posted a photo on our YouTube channel. That's not even the worst part. So we do the whole investigation and we try to ask the ghost why there's blood on the wall. There was something dark there. We don't know what it was, but it was so strong it exploded our scare bear. Then we heard this loud thud and people talking outside. But every time we would look out, there was nobody there. Then we heard what sounded like a trunk slam shut and a car peeled out. We were so scared. We barely slept that night. I still can't believe a ghost told me.
Do you guys know why refrigerators are magnetic? Before the year 1956, refrigerators had latchets that would only open from the outside. And they were sealed with rubber, so they were also soundproof. When kids would play hide and seek, they would end up hiding inside of these refrigerators. And because they only opened from the outside, they would end up suffocating. And no, they cannot yell for their parents because the rubber makes them soundproof. The Refrigerator Safety Act started in 1956 to prevent that from happening, and all refrigerator companies decided to make them magnetic so that they would stay sealed, but they would also open from the inside. There were a couple of old ones still laying around, and the most recent case of this happening was back in 2013, when 2 South African kids were stuck inside of a refrigerator and ended up suffocating to death.
This happened 2 months ago in January of 2019. My parents went out to a party. They told me they wouldn't be back until at least 3 a.m. in the morning because the party was supposed to start at 8 p.m. and the party was going to be in New Jersey. We live in Connecticut, so it takes a while to get there and back. They told me to watch my 10-year-old brother and expected me to be responsible because I'm 15 years old. When they left, we watched movies all night while eating a bunch of popcorn. It was around 11:30, and we just finished watching Infinity War. I told my brother to brush his teeth and go to bed. I stayed up later than him to watch the movie Logan. The movie ended, and it was around 2 in the morning. I was getting ready for bed when my brother came down the stairs. I asked him what he was still doing up, and he said the boogeyman was in his closet and wanted to touch him. I looked at him in confusion. My brother isn't the type of kid to pull pranks or joke around. He wanted me to check it out. I said fine and started saying he probably just heard a house noise. He said he heard a noise coming from his closet, and when he checked inside, the boogeyman was there and said he wanted to touch him.